on Game Plan.
I feel like we're getting better and better each week, and that's what is most important to me.
The Saints will need to show improvement as they face their first opponent with a winning record in well-rested Washington.
Smith lets it rip. Richardson, he's got it inside the 5. Touchdown!
We're breaking down a primetime matchup worthy of its time slot as Drew Brees chases history. Mark Ingram is reunited with Alvin Kamara, and Adrian Peterson returns to his short-lived home.
I will be grabbing some beignets when I get down there.
See how Taysom Hill is actually underachieving and what the new look black and gold backfield would look like in a rematch of the 2017 game that saw a franchise record 15-point comeback clinched in overtime.
Morstead puts it down. Lutz has it on its way.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is Game Plan. Sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers. Home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
We are on to the second quarter of this Saints season, and the Saints have hit their stride, winning 3 in a row. And they get a big piece of their offense back this week. Welcome to Game Plan. Juan Kincaid, I'm Sean Fazan.
It must be nice to be able to welcome back a 1,000-yard rusher into the fold. Mark Ingram's return is big news for a team that's been running the ball pretty well without him, Sean. But like all things with this offense, they want more, and in Ingram, they expect to get it.
Guys are excited. You know, you come off a win like that, and you get one of your guys back that shoot, he was super excited. So I think the feeling from everyone to see one of their leaders and the guy that's a big part of our back, and especially coming off a road win like that, we'll figure out the balance. With the Redskin game and going forward each game, you're always kind of looking at how you want to play the game. Yeah, of course, you have a little bit more versatility with someone with Mark's experience. I know it'll be good for us offensively to have him back.
Up next for the Saints, a Monday night matchup with history on the line for Drew Brees against Washington inside the Dome.
And for the Saints to make it 4 in a row heading into their bye, they'll have to stop a team that always seems to match up well against the black and gold.
When the Saints line up Monday against Washington, they'll reunite with a familiar face. Adrian Peterson wasn't here long, but did make an impression. And now that he's in the nation's capital, he's flourished and leads the team in rushing with 236 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I don't know that that's a big storyline, although you guys will make it one. I think you root for him. I've watched him on film now. We see some of the Washington cut-ups because that's a team we study and we think a lot of, and he's doing well. But man, he's had a good season. Those guys are playing well as a team.
Peterson's quarterback is Alex Smith, who is efficient. He rarely throws interceptions and is completing nearly 70% of his passes. Smith loves throwing to tight ends and running backs. That's why his leading 2 pass catchers are tight end Jordan Reed and running back Chris Thompson.
It's a talented offense, and I think Jay and his staff do a great job. I know them well. Bill Callahan, their line coach. I think each week they come up with a great plan for their players, and they'll throw to the backs, they'll throw to the tight ends. Well, you look at last year's game, and it's a perfect example of that. So we've got to have a good week here. This is a team that's coming off a bye, and very quickly get ready to put our best foot forward.
Defensively, they sit near the top of the league. They only allow 278 yards per game and are second in the NFL, allowing just under 15 points per game. Linebacker Mason Foster leads their team in tackles. Add it all up, it's an efficient offense and a very good defense, which should make for an interesting primetime showdown Monday night.
Now, once the Kings of primetime, Monday Night Football has been unkind to the Saints as of late. They've lost 3 straight games. Their last win, came in Chicago back in 2014. Got to do better on Monday Night Football.
I think you got to do better at the running game. Whoever has the better running game that night will win the game. But if you think back to last year's meeting inside the Dome, the running game didn't have the final say. Saints quarterback Drew Brees did. This was a game that for nearly the entire game was controlled by Washington. In fact, they looked to be headed to a victory with barely 5 minutes left to play. Then Brees got going, the Saints offense got going, and the rest is history. A Saints comeback win for the ages.
It was a pretty solid game for what it was at 55 minutes probably on both sides of the ball. On the road it was a tough environment, and offense, defense, special teams, played well. And in the last 5 minutes we failed to get a first down, and they scored 2 touchdowns and 15 points in 5 minutes. And obviously that'll be addressed again. We'll work on our 2-minute coverages and our communication and our techniques and our fundamentals, which is huge against a team led by Drew Brees. He'll find a mistake and make you pay. So we got to try to give him as little mistakes as possible and continue to get the pass rush on every down and know where Kamara is and know where Thomas is and go from there.
The biggest difference between Washington then and now is at quarterback. Alex Smith picked up where Kirk Cousins, who's now a Viking, left off. So there's still a very talented team at that position. He's so good.
I think you're correct in that, but also the change at QB means a change in styles from both of those players. How does the Saints secondary go about defending these receivers?
Going to be interesting. We've talked about the biggest difference between Cousins and Smith. Cousins can throw the ball deep pretty well, while Smith prefers to be a little more precise, utilizing more underneath routes. He doesn't take as many chances, so the Saints secondary will need to be aware of that even though he doesn't go deep a lot, he can go deep when necessary.
Very clean, very efficient quarterback. Should be interesting to watch. Up next, the Taysom train is full speed ahead, but he could have had an even bigger impact against the Giants. I'll explain when we talk tape next.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
Here's Breeze, well protected, going to throw, and it's bobbled, but then caught by Kamara, and he goes into the end zone. Morstead puts it down. Lutz has it on its way. And an epic comeback by the Saints results in their 8th straight victory.
Big win last year for sure. Big win last week. And once again, Taysom Hill played a role.
I know he is your favorite player, Juan. I know. Probably getting a little tired of Taysom Hill film studies. But this week I wanted to examine the zone replay he most commonly runs at quarterback. Turns out Hill did some really good things, but also made a few mistakes.
Taysom Hill's first snap at quarterback was perfect execution. Hill's read is number 53, Connor Barwin. Now, when he and Alvin Kamara have the ball at the mesh point, watch Barwin. He moves too far inside. Thus, Hill pulls the ball out and runs to the vacated space outside. He breaks a tackle and gains 19 yards. Later in the second quarter, they ran it again. This time, number 96, Kareem Martin is the read. On the snap, he stays put, meaning Hill should have given it to Kamara, but he kept it and was stopped for a short gain. Look at it from the backside angle. Had Hill given the ball to Kamara, he likely would have scored with all that space in front of him. Hill would get another opportunity in the third quarter in nearly the exact same spot on the field. Again, same read, number 96 Martin. Again, he plays contain. Thus, Hill gives it to Kamara, who follows an impressive Teron Armstead block into the end zone. Fourth quarter now, the Saints run the zone read in the middle of the field. The read for Hill is once again number 96. He contains again. Hill properly hands the ball off. But this time, Landon Collins comes shooting in from his safety position to make the tackle after a short gain. And finally, the last time they ran it was on the next drive. Hill's read is number 52, Alec Ogletree. He plays contain and does not crash in. Hill should have given it up, but doesn't. And Kamara ends up being a de facto lead blocker. But watch the play from the backside angle. A give to Kamara, and there's a huge hole for possibly a huge gain.
Now, you saw a few wrinkles off that zone replay, like that pass from Hill to Kamara that nearly was a touchdown. Hill got 15 offensive snaps Sunday. Very curious to see how many he gets on Monday night.
It's no surprise in the office that I'm a bit of a Hill hater, and I'll admit it, but I'm coming around because I think he's done a really good job in the way they've tried to use him. But it's going to be interesting to see with Ingram back, Alvin Kamara back there, how they utilize him this time. Will he throw that pass to Breeze?
It's all about timing. And each week he's done this, he's had a new wrinkle each game. Yeah. So I would expect a pass or something with Taysom Hill, but it's all about when you use him.
One thing for sure, teams now have 3 things to game plan for: Ingram, Kamara, and Hill. It's going to be interesting. The Saints secondary could get a different type of test Monday night against Washington. Their quarterback, Alex Smith, doesn't like to take risks. He likes to dink and dunk with the ball, and he's very effective doing so. It means that a guy like Marshawn Lattimore will need to be on his toes for the quick throws. Lattimore's been slow to come around this season, but he showed signs of his old self in the Meadowlands. Our analyst, Deuce McAllister, believes that Lattimore finally has his legs under him.
I think it was a wake-up call, but also for him to be able to get his legs up under him. I mean, he talked about maybe being a little tired from training camp and being able to go right into a season. And look, he was tested early on. You talk about some of the receivers that he was matched up against, and you know, if this defense can kind of find itself and continue to make it hard on any quarterback, then this team can really make some noise.
It's likely that Washington will be like other NFL teams that have faced the Saints secondary. They're likely to challenge the corner opposite of Lattimore first before throwing at him. It's a sign of respect that Lattimore gained last season and needs to continue to demand this season.
Look, the cornerback play is getting better and better each week, but I don't think they're where they need to be, but they're getting close. So we'll see. Up next, we delve into the state of the Saints, where the going is good, but will their ability to shut down the run be pushed to the brink by Adrian Peterson on Monday?
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
Always nice to welcome back to the program Luke Johnson from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He covers the Saints every day for them, and it seems like the NFL schedule makers knew what they were doing. 5 games in, let's put Breeze on prime time Monday Night Football because we think he might break the record then, and that's the way it looks like it might happen.
Yeah. You know, it just takes a little bit of math. He's averaging about this many yards per game in his career. Puts him on pace to break it right about now, and Drew did his thing. He's averaging up over 300 yards a game so far this year, and sure enough, he's only, I think, 201 yards away from breaking it right now, so it makes sense.
Yeah, not the first time it's happened. Remember the Johnny Unitas record back in 2012? That was the Sunday night game. The passing yardage record in a single season was on a Monday night game. That was a little bit more of luck from Breeze to the NFL, but he's used to this, and I think he'll handle it appropriately.
I was going to ask, it's going to feel like Drew Brees' night at the stadium, and so you asked the question, how does he handle this compared to the last time these things have happened? Does it help the fact he's gone through all this before? There's going to be crazy national attention on this game on Monday night.
Absolutely, I think that's what you just said. He's gone through this before. He knows how to do it, and it's true. He's got a system. He's almost robotic in what he does pre-game, during a game, post-game. I think he will handle it just fine. And Coach Speak Alert, he'll do it one play at a time and eventually break that record by what? I don't know, second quarter, third quarter, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's gone in the second quarter. They're going to make sure it gets over early enough so they can just focus on the game. But Drew is such a pro, man. That guy does not care one bit about all the hype going into this. He is going to be going into that game prepared. He's going to appreciate this once it happens, but it's the last thing on his mind.
Do you worry at all about there being so much emphasis put on getting to 201 that it may throw this offense off a little bit because they're trying to get that out of the way?
I think absolutely not. I think they're going to plan for this game like they always have. You know, in the past, they've really risen in primetime games. Not recently, but still in the past they have. I think they're going to approach this game with the same sort of game plan, same sort of intensity, same sort of kind of, you know, the methodology they go through from play in to play out. I don't think it's going to be overhyped at all.
And plus they're bringing a guy back in that may have some incentive to run the ball with him. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be going into this thing trying to force feed the passing game.
And that is the other big story. Mark Ingram making his return. Adrian Peterson returning to the Dome since he played with the Saints. First on Ingram, how will the Saints use him? Is it throw him right in because he knows all the plays, or do you build him up slowly?
I think they'll throw him right in, but I think we'll see him, and this is just a guess on my part, but I think we'll see him more with the type of workload that Alvin Kamara had last year, where he's kind of the guy in the secondary touch role. And you take some of the work away from Kamara, but Ingram's still in the 12 to 15 range. Okay. I think that makes sense to me.
I think about 15, maybe even a little bit more, because Ingram is a volume carry back. He's not necessarily a 1 or 2 carry a game type back. He's at his best when he gets more carries. Hadn't played football in a while, so perhaps there's some rust. I don't think there'll be a lot of rust. He knows the system. He's been chomping at the bit to come back. So I think he'll fall in somewhere between 15 to 20, and depending on how the game goes, maybe even more.
Do you worry about him maybe trying to do too much because, again, it's his first game back? He has the freshest legs of any guy in the NFL right now. Do you worry about him maybe trying to do too much because he gets to play again?
Maybe. I think it's really hard to gauge how a guy's going to be feeling. He has been chomping a bit to get back, and it's prime time. Maybe. That's going to be tough for Ingram.
He's an emotional guy. We know that, and that emotion fuels him. So if they got to rein him back a little bit, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
So the other running back that'll be back, Adrian Peterson, and we've heard from Adrian earlier this week, obviously, about being back here. He says it's no big deal. You go back to play in arenas all the time. Is it a big deal that AP comes back here?
No, I'm completely on board with what Sean Payton said earlier in his teleconference earlier this week. Bigger storyline than it is an actual thing inside that locker room. Adrian Peterson was only with the Saints for what, 4 games last year, was not a productive player, and when he left, his offense exploded. So I think everybody got into a better situation for themselves, their respective positions, and I think everyone's professional here and they understand how the business works, and frankly, I think both the Saints and Peterson are in better spots.
We have a viewer question for the show tonight. This comes from Thaddeus in New Orleans by the Final Play app, using the Final Word feature, by the way. He wants to know, the cornerback position is still weak. Are we looking at any more cornerbacks? It's been very quiet on the cornerback front, mainly because you got better production out of them against the Giants.
Yeah, and to answer this question, I haven't heard anything yet as far as a workout or potential signing. There were a couple of workouts last week that did not lead to a signing. I think right now the feeling is we're going to roll what we have. We had a decent game last week with Crawley and Lattimore on the edge, with obviously P.J. Williams playing the nickel. Now, there's an injury that could be a problem, so we'll see. But I think for now, at cornerback, they're going to roll what they have.
Yeah, I think the cornerback market is incredibly thin. I don't think we've heard anything about people coming in for workouts. I think they're going to be sticking with what they got.
I think people make the mistake of thinking, well, if we got bad cornerbacks, hey, go out there and grab you one. There aren't great cornerbacks just available because they will be signed with someone else, right? Oh, they're asking for a little too much money. Saints have 12-7 in Monday Night Football games since Payton and Breeze have been here, but they've lost 5 of their last 6 games on Monday night. So how big of a game, how big of a win would it be for the Saints, considering you've got the next 2 games on the road, Baltimore, Minnesota?
I think it's huge. It's A, prime time, like you were saying, and B, considering you're going into the bye week, if you can go in there and a win, you're 4-1, you're probably a game up in the division, or you're at least right there in the lead. It's huge, especially considering how healthy they are right now. If they can go into that with a win, huge game.
Totally agree. You get to 4-1. We looked at this schedule. We thought 4-1 at the bye week, and if you can get to 4-1 going into that bye week, still knowing you can play better, and 2 very tough games on the road against 2 teams you have not historically matched up well against in Baltimore, Minnesota. And then the rest of that middle half of the schedule, if you will, I think it would be huge. To follow 3-2, to go into the bye week like that, would not have as much, I don't know, kind of luster, if you will. But to get that win, going into the bye week, feeling good, come back out refreshed, ready to roll, ready to hit the road against Baltimore, Minnesota.
They always break it down into 4-week seasons, obviously 4 quarters, and Saints go into the bye week at 4-1. They couldn't ask for more than that. That's Luke Johnson from NOLA.com and the Times Picayune. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Still to come, crowded backfields are a fantasy football conundrum as old as the game itself. How will Alvin Kamara's sharing the load affect his point production? Chris Hagan breaks it down next.
You're watching Game Plan, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight.
If you're looking for a key to a Saints win, it begins with their ability to shut down Washington's running game. When they've been effective on the ground, they've won. In their 2 victories, they've carried the ball an average of 38.5 times and turned out an average of 174 yards per game. When they've struggled to open holes for the running backs, like in the 1 loss to the Colts, they handed it off just 22 times, 65 yards. So make Washington one-dimensional. Make them throw the ball. And there seems to be at least one given from Monday night's game. If you have Drew Brees as your fantasy quarterback, you probably should play him.
Yeah, that'd be pretty smart. And he's chasing the record with the whole world watching under the bright lights of Monday Night Football. Chris Hagan has more fantasy advice to give with his extra point.
As we've highlighted, Adrian Peterson's return to the Superdome marks somewhat of a backfield reunion, even if he was only with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara for a few games. Obviously, the Saints parting with Peterson was good for them, and it's worked out well for the future Hall of Famer, too. One thing every fantasy football owner would tell you, the trade definitely benefit everyone's statistics. Peterson had success, though limited, in Arizona, while Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara went on to set record numbers en route to the Pro Bowl. I say all that to set the stage for what will make for an interesting Monday night in the fantasy football world. Kamara is currently the top fantasy running back, and owners have probably been fearing what the return of Ingram would mean for AK's production. The bad news for those with Kamara on their team, the touches will likely be significantly impacted. Through 4 games this year, Kamara's averaged 22.8 touches per game. But if you look at the 13 games without Adrian Peterson that he and Mark Ingram were both healthy for, that number is down to a little more than 14 per game. Not bad by any means in a shared backfield, but no longer will he be a bell cow. Ingram owners, on the other hand, rejoice. He had more touches than Kamara in 8 of those 13 shared games without Peterson last year, and thanks to the Saints' run-heavy scheme, found the end zone 12 times to Kamara's 8. Which brings me to my next point. Their touches and production may still depend on the situation, much like we saw through the first 3 games this year. When the Saints were needing to keep pace with the opposing offense, Kamara's workload was heavy with more passing situations. But when playing with the lead or in a game where they weren't desperate for points in 2017, it was Ingram who benefited most. Games last season that stand out in that regard: Detroit, when the Saints led by as much as 35 and Ingram finished with a season-high 25 carries to go with 2 touchdowns, and Buffalo, when the Saints ran all over the Bills, with number 22 leading the charge with 21 carries for 131 yards and 3 scores. But finally, on the contrary, there was one trend by the numbers that stands out. Ingram's carries went down, and Kamara's went up as the season continued. Whether that was a result of playing in closer games or being able to put more on Kamara's plate, the answer lies in what we'll see happen with their amount of touches this year. One thing is for sure, though, this Saints offense at full strength is poised to be one of the best in the league in real life and fantasy football. Reporting for Game Plan, I'm Chris Hagan.
Our coverage certainly doesn't stop here. Lots more football on Fox 8 this week. Tomorrow night, Colts and Patriots in prime time. Then Friday, we switch to high school football with Fox 8 Football Friday at 10:35. No Saints game this Sunday, but we still got a jam-packed final play at 10:30. Then Monday, we're tailgating inside the Dome at 6, with reports starting on Fox 8 News at 4 o'clock. The Black and Gold Review Show comes your way with Deuce McAllister and Sean Vazan. I get to be on there as well on Tuesday.
And of course, you can always get in touch with us using the Final Word feature on the Final Play app. That will do it for us tonight. Thank you for watching Game Plan. Thanks to everyone here at Fox 8 for their contributions. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Good night, everyone.
Buenas noches.
From Fox 8 Sports.